you doing up there? No comment? Well, I'm approaching the target thickness of 1/8 of an inch. I've got spot measurements showing that I'm in the area of 0.130. I have the shape and size of the body actually traced from the real body onto it, positioning it, and I've sketched in a line 3/8 of an inch out from that. That is where I'm going to make my first cut. So, armed with my trusty little saber saw, which is older than dirt, but which has a brand new blade in it, it's time to commit. And time for doing all the final sanding by hand now, and for actually laying out and gluing on the braces. That's the next step. So as I'm getting down to the target thickness of 1/8 of an inch, you might ask, how do I know how flat it is? Well, you might not ask that, but I sure do, because it's critical. This is the soundboard for the guitar, and it has to be as flat as humanly possible. And of course, I'm doing all of this by hand. How do I know? I take a tool and die maker's straight edge that is absolutely perfectly flat. I'll lay it on it, and I start trying to run a 5/1000th feeler gauge under it. And at any point where I can get that underneath it, I consider that a low spot. So I mark it. That's actually the part that I don't want to sand. And I keep going until I get across to the other side where it won't go under it again. And I make a pencil mark there. So now this area I assume is the right thickness. This area is too thick, so it has to be sanded. And as a result of this, I don't know if the camera can pick it up, but I have a series of marks going from one end of this to the other, which show me a contour map of exactly what part of this thing is too thick. Those are the parts that I'm going to sand by hand, and they're the only parts I'm going to sand. All of this that is low enough, I leave it alone. And I sand all of the high parts, and then I come back and check it again. And if and when I get it down to where this 5/1000th feeler gauge won't go under the straight edge, it's probably close enough. But I'll probably take it down to a 3/1000th feeler and do it again, just because I'm ornery. So armed with my little contour map, I adjourn to the sanding and finishing lab, aka the garage. Take a sanding block and start to work on it. When I take enough off that the pencil marks disappear, I'll probably take it in and do the whole process over again to see how much closer I am. Just think of it as good arm exercise. So after most of the day, a lot of arm exercise, and a couple of beers, the whole top is within plus or minus about 2/1000ths of where it's supposed to be. So that's probably about as close as it's going to get. And I'm giving the top surface the first sanding with ultrafine 220 grit paper. Just because I want to see what it looks like. I like it. I've got the brace locations all laid out exactly where they go. I've got the sound hole cut with the new hole saw that I had to buy because the old one I absolutely knew I still had is naturally nowhere to be found. So I got a little extra daring and took the thickness down 0.005 below the target to 0.120. It's suddenly gotten real fragile. And meanwhile, now I'm looking for something perfectly flat to lay it on so I can start gluing the braces on. And looking around, I can't find anything in this house that is absolutely perfectly flat, except for an old mirror that I don't want to mess with, and this. Well, it fits. So, cover it with some rarunium foil to protect it and to keep the oils in it from migrating into the spruce, and put it into action as the perfectly flat glue-up station. Creative engineering at work. The first piece of the main X is down and clamped. Next, the fretboard rib. The other side of the X, which is in two parts. This is part 1. And part 2. Hi, guy. What you doing, Goofus? Next, the main soundboard ribs. One of them is down. There are 2. This one is next. The little outer wings. There's a pair on each side. And that will be the last of the braces. Now the last piece to go on the inside is the bridge plate, which goes right here, directly underneath the bridge on the other side. It started life as a 1/8 inch thick piece of oven coal, wood similar to rosewood, that I got from a very helpful luthier on eBay. And it had to be cut and hand fitted to drop into that spot right there. It's done except for tapering the top and bottom edges of it. When that's done, I glue it in, and this side is done. Done. And done. So all of the inside work is finished. It's now a complete guitar top. Nothing left to do here. The only thing left to do to it at all is to locate and mount the bridge, which, like everything else Has to be done right the first time because you only get one chance to put it in the right place. But that's okay. Once that's down, basically the next thing to do is mount it on a guitar body. I think I have one available. Meanwhile, instead of watching glue dry, I've gone off on yet another tangent. Back when I built the guitar, I had no reference, and I decided on my own that a 12-string guitar must need a wider neck because it has more strings on it. I was wrong. But by the time I found out, it was too late. The guitar was already together. So I just lived with it. It was playable anyway. But for the first time in 50 years, the neck is off of it. I have it in my grubby little hands. So I'm making it narrower. I'm taking 1/8 of an inch off of each side of it. Of course, it means I'm going to have to recontour the whole neck, but that's okay. It will, when I'm finished with it, have a neck that's the standard width of every other 12-string, and it'll be easier to play. I can get into that.